The biggest and most difficult experience is building a team. The team that has the right skills that the company needs. The team that has the best reach, network, audience, and talent, of course.
This is where it all begins. So say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, disruptors, and creators who are making things happen. My name is Michael T. Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host Tyler Kelly. Today we're at Venture Cafe Miami. Venture Cafe is the largest gathering of entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. So on a Thursday evening, if you're near Venture Cafe City, I suggest you go check it out. I'm very excited because today we have Jorge Cortes with us. Jorge, thanks for being here.
Michael, thank you so much. Thank you guys, Tyler. Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, this is exciting. So Jorge is a Colombian entrepreneur with 10 years of experience building smart, resilient, and sustainable cities. If you've been around Miami for any amount of time, you've probably seen Jorge all over the news, right? Co-founder of MIA Ventures since 2013, which helped build Miami's innovation and tech ecosystem. Also a member of the Innovation Council in Coral Gables. And you've received the key to the city of Miami and Miami-Dade County. That's pretty
right.
Cool.
That's right.
How do you get a key to the city?
Well, like you said, many years of being, very passionate and very excited about kind of like working towards attracting and retaining the local talent and help build, the tech ecosystem here through, projects that need some push from some with some capital or some also some failures, right? Because not all of the projects have been successful, and just trying and failing and has been like kind of my efforts with many companies that are coming from all over the United States and Latin America as well. So I'm very happy to learn from that, and that's what I've been doing. So I was at some point I was recognized for helping all those companies opening market here as well.
That's awesome.
So in your bio, it mentioned 10 years. Is that 10 years in Miami that you've been doing things here in Miami?
No, not really. That's more like maybe 10 years of me being more independent and very passionate about this, exactly what we're talking about. But I've been here 18 years. I got to Miami when I was 16 from Colombia. And of course, I did some studies here in the local college, universities. And then that's when I jumped into, hey, why don't we bring the tech industry? It's for all means and all the angles. It was something that was going to be very positive for the city, and I wasn't one of those who wanted to just perhaps go into school here and just leave because the opportunities weren't here. So I wanted to stay and help out to build the city, right? So but it's been 18 years for me living in Miami. Yeah.
So tell us about, over those 18 years, what have you seen progress in kind of the city's ecosystem and things like that?
Well, definitely the most impressive thing is the culture of collaboration that no other industry has ever developed. And that's why today we can say that, the tech industry is not an industry anymore. It's part of the whole like socio-economic spectrum, right? We don't, it's not biological because we don't eat it, right? But everything else is in our lives, it's in our safety, our day-to-day, our phones and everything that we do. And at the same time, well, it's the purest form of helping each other and collaborate. And if I don't necessarily, have a synergy with your company, what you do, I can connect you with somebody else, and then doesn't happen in any other industry, right? Like that. So that's something that kind of like was very part of the melting pot in Miami that wasn't melting. And it's now, it's now happening for there's much more to do, but I think it's a good start, right? Some 7 years of this gigantic different way to respect and admire each other here between all of the immigrants from all over the place in Miami, right?
And you were here, obviously, being here 18 years. You were here before all of this happened, and then you were a part of it. And so what was Miami like 10 years ago?
Right. Wow. What a question, because sometimes I could say that it was a very, very hard, I will say for a young generation was very difficult, very miserable, where job opportunities weren't here. And of course, in general, it was the city that a lot of people think of Miami, that Miami is like it maybe party or only vacation, summer, or fancy cars and shopping malls, but it's not like that anymore. So now you can see that culture of, again, collaboration and the pot melting, right? Where before it was only migrations and some like a nice city to go to the beach, very expensive, but at the same time, the locals were very in left behind.
You talked about there not being opportunity, so people had to leave to find opportunity. And I know there's not a simple answer to this question, but how did Miami create opportunity for people so that they could stay?
So I have to say that it was a big effort from a lot of people. I was just recognized, but there was hundreds of people that contributed to this, from the academia, the local universities, and Miami-Dade College, which has the largest number of college students in the country, FIU, University of Miami, and the local authorities, coming together to say, okay, how do we create an ecosystem, an innovation and tech ecosystem to help entrepreneurs grow, to bring new companies, and to bring that culture. So I guess it was a time where it was evident that the inequality levels were extremely high, and it wasn't fair with the locals and in the city itself. So it was a time when all these things came together, from the arts to the science, and to create this sense of belonging for the city, right? So I think there was a mix of all of that together that came to start creating and collaborating at all levels, from the richest people to the poorest one. And there's still, like I said, there's still a lot more to do, right? From other different angles.
And so, among all the things that you do, one of the things that you do is Startup Safari.
Right.
And that is a weekend that happens a couple times a year or more, in which you bring in people to educate the community. Is that a good way of putting it? Yes.
Besides launching, landing, and helping startups grow, we found a way to get them all together throughout 2 days of an educational platform called the Startup Safari. It is an event that we are actually bringing from Europe. My partner Andres Hurtado, he's the one who has done it before in other cities, and we brought it for the first time in the U.S. last in June. But we're going to continue, making it happen, because we, throughout the safari, you go to all the different co-working spaces. We're trying to reach all of them. Miami has the largest number of co-working spaces in the United States. And from 40 to 50 or maybe even more. But it doesn't mean that the level of innovation is growing, right, at that level. But at least the different concepts are there, right? And the people wanting to get involved with other people in their industry and work at this culture of collaboration is there. So we want to invite them to go around the city, go and meet all of these co-working spaces, because sometimes you get a membership here and there, and maybe you don't visit the other ones, right? But there are so many, right? And they're so innovative. For the arts to the science, from some focus on architecture or eco tech, so for sustainability. Some others are more related to health tech, or like here Venture Cafe at CIC, there's fintech related startup incubators, accelerators. So they all have their own characteristics. So we want to invite everybody to visit and go around the city.
So how does somebody become part of that? Is it something open to any startup, or do you recruit for it, or how does that work?
So anybody can participate. Everybody can just join, choose their agenda throughout those 2 days, and go visit these experts on different topics, from digital marketing to how to prepare your pitch, or how to raise capital, or how to connect with investors. There's plenty of topics for everybody, and you technically you subscribe. And we're looking for speakers, right, for the ones that are coming very soon. So anybody can be a speaker if they have a consolidated profile of an expertise, or if they want to just teach something. We are welcoming all the community to come. And yeah, it's very easy to register and choose your agenda throughout those 2 days.
So Jorge, Miami, the innovation ecosystem is booming, but in other parts of South Florida, it's booming as well. Why is that, and what are some of the similarities, some of the challenges?
Well, each city has its own characteristics, opportunities, advantages, in terms of talent, in terms of migration, in terms of academia as well. In the case of Florida, one of the most interesting hubs is Gainesville, because it's a very small city. There's only University of Florida there. That's why the city actually exists, right? It's a college town, and then you find so many investors located there, and the University of Florida supporting heavily all these tech startups from all their different faculties, and everybody just creating startups, failing, doing, coming back, creating teams, and there has been some amazing startups coming out of Gainesville, Florida, right? For example, the other example is Tampa, where they have been innovating more at the government level in terms of smart cities, with some pilots with Tesla for mobility, taking their own citizens for free around the city in the downtown area. And the city of Orlando as well, they have been working more on the sustainability side with a heavily push on the renewable energy efforts for wind, for solar. So each city has their own characteristics and their own necessity for innovation, right? Based on their talent and their. But in general, I mean, Florida has. And let me say it because I think it's worth it. Cape Canaveral is now receiving thousands and thousands of workers for SpaceX, Blue Origin, Moon Express, and is becoming a hub for space tech, right? for all these companies, which is very exciting. Before, maybe 20 years ago when we were kids, we used to go to Cape Canaveral and see all these NASA tour and is now a hub for thousands of high-tech workers, engineers working on all these platforms. Now you now see a picture of Cape Canaveral and it's full of these loading decks where all these chips and propulsion and everything. So it's interesting. That's part of a tech hub as well, where the collaboration has to be there because the main focus or the profound focus of the collaboration is for all of them to listen to each other and collaborate. When you have an expert of this field and in this field, and they all want to have the last say. Right, so when you collaborate at that level, you build that culture. They can help each other and teach each other much better. That's kind of like where everything starts, right? Like on the culture.
Yeah. So being in and seeing everything going on in the tech ecosystem, what's one piece of advice that you would offer to somebody? Say I've got a startup. From everything you've seen, what's a piece of advice that you think would be helpful to a startup?
I will say that the biggest and most difficult experience is building a team, building the right team, the team that has the right skills that the company needs, the team that has the best reach, network, audience, and talent, of course. And the right investors nowadays, because there is a lot of investors out there. It's not like 10 years or 20 years before that. It's not difficult to get this venture capital. In fact, you can choose your smart capital because you want a venture capital. You want an investor that not only invests money but also somehow an expert or on the field, right? Can open your network to another level. So building the right team is for me it's one of the hardest lessons, and I think that learning how to build the right team it's something that you can focus on, and maybe you can scale your venture much faster if you focus on this. Sometimes you're passionate about, okay, this is my best friend from all my life, my best friend for high school, or my uncle who is I consider a genius, and you don't recognize, okay, maybe he's a mentor and he's an advisor, but you don't know where actually it fits, and maybe they're not your team precisely. They're not as passionate,
When we think of Miami innovation the Miami innovation ecosystem, I mean, you're a big part of that. So this is an important question. Where do you see it headed? Right. So like you were here you were here like for the launch of it and the collaboration and seeing it grow to 40 or 50, co-working spaces, and then all the other collaborations that are going on around town. Like, what's next? What are you most excited about in the next, year or two?
I think that the traction that it's getting because of the growth of other ecosystems, perhaps in Colombia, Latin America, that are also growing at the same pace or even faster. And those entrepreneurs are starting to come into Miami and finding Miami as their first step to start growing in the US market. I think that trend is very interesting, where the fashion or the trend or what is cool is to grow your company in your city and then go to Silicon Valley and say, hey, I have this traction, I need to connect with all the investors, but they have different limitations, right? The network, because it's not easy to get to any event over there and just come in, and investors are not going to give you a meeting next day or next week. It doesn't work like that over there. It's very crowded. There's a lot of geniuses. There's a lot of engineers. There's a lot of companies that are already generating millions, and it's very competitive. And Miami has all of that already here. You don't need to look for 500 startups in Silicon Valley. You have it over here. You don't need to look for the there's Venture City, $100 million fund, who is actually here in the middle of Little Havana, right, tapping into different markets from Europe to San Francisco as well. So these and companies from Europe or Latin America that are want to come into the US, they can use Miami as their bridge to come here, and that's a big trend that is started to happen. Another interesting thing is what we talk about with Cape Canaveral, all that community of amazing talent bringing their families, because it's not only there as employees, but also they're bringing their families, their children, and it's becoming another hub city that's growing there. That's part of the tech industry, and of course the increase of venture capital that's coming into the city for the upcoming year. You have SoftBank creating this $5 billion fund for Latin America, including Miami, right? Where they have deployed already $1 billion, but they're looking at startups in Brazil. They are based in Miami anyways, and they're not gonna leave Miami behind. They have already invested in some startups here, some millions. In fact, just SoftBank, they have created at least over 100 positions in the last just like 6 months, for everything from the startups that they have hired here, as well as growing their team to manage everything for Latin America from here. So that's extremely interesting. Those venture capital firms that are landing. They were visiting before, now they're landing and opening their offices here.
It's like the next phase of the evolution. Like, we're starting to see that happen. In terms of Latin American companies that want to land in America, like companies that have made it in Latin America and now they want to make it in the U.S., what type of advice would you give to them?
I will say just break the fashionable and what's cool of getting to San Francisco and getting to Silicon Valley because you already made it in your country or multiple countries. I think that study Miami to be a soft landing. Very easy to start connecting from here. You don't have to go with the pain of going to San Francisco or Silicon Valley just because it's there, right? Just break that habit, and you're going to be extremely connected, very well connected here in Miami. Easy landing. You still have the Spanish, the language. Sometimes that could be a limitation for a lot of perhaps investors over there, or to get into their culture over there. But Miami, you have all that, and you can start growing. I think that will be the most easy approach. And it's not only opening the U.S. market. It's also, if you're coming from Chile or Argentina or Colombia, you get to Miami and you can open other countries in Latin America much faster. It's incredible. The connectivity here is immediate. It's right there. It's visible. It has been happening for decades. All these headquarters for Latin America are here. Microsoft headquarters, Latin America here. Citrix, you have plenty of tech companies located in Palm Beach, in Broward counties, and all of them just So everything is here. You don't need to go through the pain of like Seattle or Silicon Valley because of what they are, right? Of the traditional way to get there.
Awesome. Well, Jorge, how can people get a hold of you, in touch with you, get involved with the things that you're doing?
I'm very easy to get in touch. Just Facebook, LinkedIn, Jorge Cortes or Jorge Andres Cortes Restrepo, my long name, and then my email is Jorge Cortes with an S, INC. Jorge Cortes INC at gmail.com. That's my personal. You guys can email me there for all the different activities, like I said, for consultancy or how to land, how to launch in Miami, or participating in one of our events like Startup Safari. And actually more recently I've been involved with the Blockchain Center. So it's also one of those co-working spaces that are open here, that are related to tech, to innovation, and just a little detail, the Blockchain Center is a spin-off and is the second location of the Bitcoin Center in Wall Street in New York, which has been very controversial, right? Because it's disrupting the Wall Street tradition and all that, and it's the same people, the experts, the celebrities are here looking at these markets in Europe and Latin America from Miami. So everybody's kind of like coming in getting very comfy here in Miami as well. Right, so I invite you to tap into all these amazing new technologies like blockchain.
Jorge, thank you for being on the show.
No,
it was a great
thank you
conversation.
guys. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I hope to visit you guys over on the other cities that you guys are visiting all the time. Thank you so much for the invitation. Appreciate it.
For more episodes, visit innovationcity.co. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're in Miami, visit us on Thursday nights. Details are at venturecafemiami.org. And be sure to connect with us on social at We Are Slam and at Venture Cafe MIA. Thanks for listening.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams